Dr. Joe Schwarcz joining us right now, as he does every Tuesday afternoon. And Joe, we kind of left this hanging about a week or so ago, or a couple of weeks ago, right? I came across a story, and we said we'll talk about it later on. So let's start with that. The headline says, erectile dysfunction drug Viagra has surprising new health benefit and could help millions of people as they age. So I'm guessing the people it's going to help are not about, help in the bedroom. I'm guessing it's about something else. Actually, I know it is because the story is talking about osteoporosis. So what's this about?
Right. I think that they talked about the study so that they could have the captivating headline about Viagra stiffening bones.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Well, anyway, Viagra, of course, is a very interesting substance. It was originally put on the market as an angina medication because it dilates blood vessels. And it turned out that people who had been taking Viagra found this rather interesting side effect. And of course, Pfizer, the manufacturer, immediately capitalized on that, and it became one of the best-selling drugs. The name of it is actually interesting, how it was arrived at. Do you know that?
No, I don't.
No, it comes from Vitality, and they wanted to make it sound very powerful, and Niagara Falls, it just exudes power.
Is this true?
So they combined Vitality and Niagara, and they got Viagra. Okay, now the study that you're talking about is another interesting side effect observation, is that people who were taking Viagra turned out to have stronger bones. Now, supposedly these were people who were being monitored for osteoporosis and also happened to be taking Viagra. So that's how this came to light. And osteoporosis, of course, is a weakening of the bones, and it increases the risk of falls. And, of course, that's a huge problem. Many senior citizens start the downward slide with a fall, and then they don't quite recover from that, and everything cascades downhill. So anything that reduces that risk is great. So they made this observation. Now, of course, this does not mean that Viagra is going to be prescribed generally to prevent osteoporosis. That's not what this means. It was just an interesting observation that people who are already taking Viagra may benefit from this.
Yeah, but why wouldn't it, Joe, if that's the case? If it does spur bone growth, skeletally...
Because there are many other drugs that are prescribed for that, which have a long history of use and a long history of success. So eventually, it may be, but that needs long-term trials, more than just an observation of people who already have been taking Viagra. And I'm sure that they're looking into that now, because obviously this is the reason to market Viagra. So far, it's an interesting observation that people who are taking Viagra reduce the risk of osteoporosis. And maybe it will translate to prescribing Viagra just for that. But that's going to take a while before that is determined, because there are, as I said, there are a number of medications that are already in use for that purpose.
By the way, I should point out, and I read this in the piece as well, the idea is, just to take Viagra for the sake of taking it, just because you want to try it, is not a good idea, right?
It's not a good idea. Well, first of all, it's a prescription drug. Although, these days people get around that because you can order it on the internet.
Right.
But no, this is not something that should be taken without the advice of a physician, because like any other medication, it can have side effects. Sometimes it can have serious side effects.
Okay. Second story you want to get to today, you say you want to talk about a company that can take sugar out of orange juice. Right.
This is very interesting because someone brought to my attention an Instagram video about a company that claims to be able to make sugar vanish from orange juice. So when I first started looking at that, I said, gee, this is probably going to be another one of those hokey Instagram videos full of misinformation and hype. Turns out actually not to be the case. It's about an Israeli company called Blue Tree, who actually has developed a process for removing some of the sugar from orange juice without adding anything to it. Now, orange juice contains several different kinds of sugar. Half of the sugar in orange juice is sucrose, that's ordinary table sugar. The other half is a mixture of glucose and fructose, which are also sweet sugars. And they have developed this process whereby they take orange juice and pass it through a sequence of filters. The first filter removes pulp, and the second and third filters are made of materials called zeolite and ion exchange resin, which can actually remove the sucrose and leave behind the glucose and the fructose. So they are actually capable of removing half of the sugar from orange juice. And, of course, this is something that certainly does have a positive connotation, because we know that we want to be cutting down on the amount of sugar that we consume. The current recommendation is that the amount of sugar, free sugar, that we should be taking every day is about 40 grams. And a glass of orange juice has 20 grams of sugar. That's a lot of sugar. So if you can cut that in half by removing the sucrose, you're doing a good thing. And, of course, you're also cutting down on the calorie count. So they have now gone to the pilot plant stage where they're actually producing some of this reduced sugar orange juice, and they're test marketing it in Latin America and in Asia. Now, we'll see where this goes, because, of course, when you remove half of the sugar, you're also removing some sweetness. But still, the glucose and the fructose, which make up half the sugar in the orange juice, get left behind. So there still will be some sweetness. The question of whether or not people are going to notice that difference in sweetness. One thing that they will notice is the difference in price, because obviously this treated orange juice goes through this special processing, so it will cost more. But it turns out that this video, which I thought was going to be another one of these scam videos, isn't. It actually describes a very legitimate company carrying out this. Now, whether or not this is really important, that's a different question, because about 5 oranges go into a glass of orange juice, right? That's a lot of sugar. So why not just counter this by skipping the orange juice and eating an orange instead? You will have fiber in there, you will have minerals in there, and you will have much, much less sugar. And, people don't realize how much sugar there actually is in orange juice. They don't even realize how much sugar there is in soft drinks. But the fact is that the amount of sugar in orange juice is equivalent to what you have in a soft drink.
What's a can of Coke, Joe, for calories? You've brought this up before. Or for grams of sugar, rather. Yeah,
it has about, depending on the size of the can, it has 25 grams of sugar in a small can, and there's 39 grams of sugar in what now is the regular can of Coke. That is the sugar allotment for a whole day. That's a lot of sugar. And orange juice has also the same amount of sugar, but of course, at least when you're drinking orange juice, you're also getting some minerals, and
By the way, just to explain for people who wonder, when you're talking about oranges, we're talking about just the oranges made into juice. We're not talking about added sugar afterwards. This is just the sugar that lives in oranges.
This is just taking 5 oranges, squeezing it to get a glass of orange juice.
Okay.
That will give you, depending on the oranges, will give you 20 to 25 grams of sugar in there. That's a lot of sugar.
Yeah.
And people overdo the juice consumption because they think that somehow orange juice, even though it has sugar, it doesn't really matter because it's natural. Well, all sugar is natural.
Sugar is sugar
right?
is sugar, right?
Sugar comes from sugar cane or sugar beets or oranges. It doesn't matter.
Okay, we leave it at that. Good advice. And by the way, I would imagine if they could do this and pull it off and it becomes scalable, you could have other fruit perhaps and do the same thing, right? Other juices?
Absolutely.
Right.
And they're also working on milk and beer to remove the sugar, because milk, of course, also contains sugar. It contains a lot of lactose. And there are already technologies to remove that, but this would be another one. And beer, of course, also contains sugar, which adds to the calories.
Beer contains sugar?
Yes, beer contains sugar, naturally occurring sugar, yes, not added sugar. Yeah.
Okay. How many grams of sugar in a regular bottle of beer, as an example?
Oh, less than orange juice. There would be 5 to 10 grams.
Okay.
So it's still a significant amount.
Especially if you have 5 or 6 of them, I guess.
Yeah.
All right, Joe, thank you.